The rain had been falling since morning, soft and steady against the window panes of Emma Carter's quiet house in Portland, Oregon. The gray sky matched the mood inside, still heavy, and full of thoughts she didn't want to think. Her husband, Daniel, had been gone for nearly a month now. He wasn't missing or anything dramatic like that. He was just away on a long business trip to Toronto, leaving Emma alone with her camera, her coffee, and her thoughts. She had started her YouTube channel 2 years ago, Emma Creates, a cozy corner of the internet where she shared her art, little sketches, watercolor tutorials, and gentle life stories. Her subscribers loved her voice.com, warm, comforting like a friend you could listen to on a quiet night. But lately, her inspiration had vanished. Every time she sat to paint, the brush just hovered over the page, waiting for something her heart couldn't seem to feel anymore. That morning, she hit record, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if she started speaking, the words would find her. "Hi everyone," she said softly, smiling at the camera. "Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It really helps me keep creating." She took a slow breath, glancing at the empty canvas in front of her. "Today," she continued, "I was going to paint something bright, something that reminds me of hope. But honestly," she hesitated, her smile fading. "Honestly, I don't even know where to begin." It was the first time her audience had ever seen her hesitate. Normally, her voice flowed like sunlight through an open window. But that morning, it cracked just a little, with something real. And that's when it happened. A notification blinked on her laptop. "New comment on your video. You're not alone." She opened it. It was from someone named Liam Hayes, a name she didn't recognize. His comment read, "Emma, your art helped me through my own silence. Don't stop creating just because the world feels gray. Sometimes, the gray is where the beauty begins." She stared at the words for a long time. They weren't extraordinary, but somehow, they moved her like someone had reached through the screen and handed her a little spark of warmth. That evening, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was this Liam? Why did his words feel so personal? Like he somehow understood the quiet ache she'd been living with. She clicked on his profile, a small art channel with only a few videos. His work was stunning, rough sketches of cityscapes, rain reflections, lonely benches under streetlights. Each one carried a kind of silent emotion that she instantly recognized. It was the same kind she painted when her heart felt too full to speak. Without overthinking it, she sent him a short message. "Thank you for your comment, Liam. I really needed that today." She didn't expect a reply, but within minutes, a notification appeared. "You're welcome, Emma. Funny, I was just watching one of your older videos. The light beyond the window. I think that one changed how I see color." A smile tugged at her lips. No one had ever said something like that before. She typed back, "That video was actually inspired by my husband. He used to sit beside me while I painted. Now he's away, and everything feels quieter." Then, after a pause, she added, "But maybe that quiet is where new stories begin." Liam replied almost instantly, "Exactly. Sometimes silence isn't empty. It's just waiting for something meaningful to fill it." Emma leaned back in her chair, reading that line over and over. There was something about him that felt oddly comforting, familiar, even like he'd spoken a truth she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. That night, she opened her sketchbook again. For the first time in weeks, her brush moved. The colors were soft blues and golds, like a sunrise after a storm. She painted without planning, without forcing, just letting emotion lead. The next morning, she posted a new video. "When you lose inspiration, paint from the heart." Within an hour, it began to trend. Comments poured in from viewers across the US and Canada, saying how her vulnerability touched them. But among them, one stood out again. From Liam, "This painting feels like hope, rediscovered. Thank you for sharing your heart." Emma replied with a quiet smile, "Maybe we both found something today." Days passed, and their conversations deepened. They talked about art, life, the strange loneliness that sometimes hides behind creative people. He never crossed any lines, always kind, respectful, but thoughtful in a way that made her feel seen. One evening, during a late chat about color theory, Liam sent her a photo, a painting he'd finished that morning. It was of a woman sitting by a rain-streaked window, light pouring softly across her face. Emma froze. The woman looked almost exactly like her. Her heart skipped. She typed, "Liam, this looks like me." He replied, "It's not supposed to, but maybe it is. Sometimes, inspiration finds a face without meaning to." Her breath caught. It wasn't romantic, not exactly, but it was something Something delicate and beautiful, a connection she hadn't expected to feel while her husband was away. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt alive again, not because of the attention, but because someone reminded her what it felt like to feel deeply. As she closed her laptop that night, she whispered to herself, maybe inspiration was never gone. Maybe it just needed to come from a different place. But deep down, a new question stirred quietly in her heart. One she wasn't ready to face just yet. What happens when inspiration starts to feel like something more? The next morning, Portland felt different. The air smelled faintly of wet leaves and coffee, carrying that quiet promise that something new was about to unfold. Emma stirred in her small kitchen, sunlight spilling through the blinds, and thought about Liam. She hadn't expected their conversations to grow so fast. At first it had been casual messages, small compliments, shared art tips, gentle encouragements, but now, it felt like he understood the spaces in her heart that even Daniel couldn't reach while he was away. Her phone buzzed just as she poured herself a cup of tea. A new message from Liam appeared. Emma, I know this might sound strange, but I found a small cafe today in the old part of the city. It's quiet, sunny, and full of little nooks that remind me of your paintings. I thought you might like it. Emma paused. She hadn't thought about meeting anyone new, not while Daniel was gone, but something about his words sparked a curiosity she couldn't ignore. She typed back, it does sound lovely, I think. I might visit tomorrow. Maybe it'll help me find more inspiration. Liam's reply came almost instantly. I'd love that. No pressure, of course. Just thought it might make the gray days a little brighter. Emma felt a flutter in her chest she hadn't felt in weeks, maybe months. It was light, almost innocent, but undeniable. That evening, she opened her sketchbook again. Unlike the last session, this time she tried to paint a memory, the warm afternoons with Daniel, the laughter that sometimes echoed through the kitchen, the small, ordinary moments that had once felt magical, and yet, her mind wandered back to Liam. She wondered what he would think if he saw these sketches, how he would interpret the way light hit the leaves outside her window, or the subtle sadness lingering in her colors. By nightfall, she was exhausted in the best way. Her heart felt full, and her thoughts were a tangled mixture of loyalty, longing, and an unfamiliar excitement. The next day, Emma dressed simply but thoughtfully, a soft sweater, jeans, and a scarf that Daniel had bought her last winter. She left her apartment and walked through the quiet streets of Portland, the cafe directions from Liam guiding her steps. When she arrived, it was exactly as he described, cozy, quiet, with sunlight spilling across small tables and the scent of fresh pastries hanging in the air. Emma chose a corner seat near a window, opened her sketchbook, and began to draw. The cafe hummed softly around her, a gentle background for thoughts that moved faster than words. Then, her phone buzzed again. It was Liam. I'm here too, sitting at the table by the counter. Don't be shy. Her heartbeat quickened. She looked up, and there he was, not exactly like she had imagined, but exactly right. He smiled. The kind of smile that felt like recognition, like he'd known her quietly all along. Hi, he said as she approached. His voice was calm, warm, familiar. Hi, Emma replied, a little breathless. They shook hands, and the moment lingered longer than necessary, filled with that gentle electricity that sometimes appears when two people unexpectedly click. They spent the afternoon talking, not just about art, but life. Liam had moved to Canada a few years ago but was traveling for work, so Portland was a brief stop. Emma found herself sharing thoughts she hadn't said aloud in years, her fears about Daniel being gone, the weight of routine, the small doubts that sometimes whispered she had lost her spark. Liam listened. He didn't interrupt, he didn't judge, he simply let her speak, occasionally offering a word that felt like it had been written just for her. By the time the sun began to set, casting long golden streaks across the cafe floor, Emma realized something startling. She was smiling, truly smiling, in a way she hadn't in a long time. Her heart felt light but aware, alive in a way that made her pulse race quietly in her chest. Liam leaned back and said softly, you know, you carry inspiration with you. It's not something you lose, it just waits for a spark. Sometimes, that spark comes from unexpected places. Emma nodded, staring out the window. Her thoughts drifted to Daniel, and she felt no guilt, only the complexity of emotions that came with being human: love, longing, curiosity, and a quiet wonder at how life could twist unexpectedly. Thank you, she whispered. For what? Liam asked, though she could see the understanding in his eyes. For reminding me that I can still feel, she said, that I can still create, that even when someone I love is far away, life can offer moments like this. They parted that evening with a soft, mutual promise, not words of romance. Exactly, but a shared recognition of the connection that had started to grow between them. As Emma walked back to her apartment, the city lights reflecting off wet streets, she realized she had a decision to make. Daniel was away, yes, but their marriage was strong, built on years of trust and love. Yet here she was, feeling a warmth she hadn't expected, stirred by a stranger who somehow felt like a companion of the soul. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her phone buzzed again. Liam, checking in. Just wanted to say I'm glad you came. It felt right. Emma read the message over and over, 1,000 thoughts swirling in her mind. She felt guilty, excited, nervous, and alive, all at once. The spark of inspiration she had been missing wasn't just in her sketches anymore. It was in her heart, and in the quiet dark of her bedroom. Emma whispered to herself, maybe inspiration isn't just about art. Maybe it's about people. Maybe it's about finding someone who makes your soul want to move again. But just as she was letting herself feel the warmth of possibility, another thought crept in, subtle and uneasy. What happens when inspiration begins to feel like more than just inspiration? The question lingered in the shadows, quiet, persistent, and impossible to ignore. The next week felt like a whirlwind for Emma. Portland's mornings were crisp and bright, yet each day carried a quiet tension she couldn't shake. Her sketches had become bolder, her brushstrokes freer, but the excitement in her heart was tangled with uncertainty. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam, about their cafe meeting, and about the unfamiliar flutter of feelings that had surfaced. Then came the email. It wasn't from Liam this time, but from Daniel. He had returned early from his trip, a sudden change in plans that neither had expected. He wrote that he'd be home by Friday evening and was looking forward to surprising her. Emma stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She hadn't realized how much she had relied on the thought of his absence to let herself feel this new spark. Now, everything felt complicated. By Thursday, Emma tried to focus on her channel. She recorded a new video about creating art from emotion, sharing her recent sketches and her journey through creative blocks. Her subscribers commented endlessly, encouraging her, praising her vulnerability, and, unknowingly, fueling the tension she felt inside. Her phone buzzed. A message from Liam. Are you okay? You seem quiet today. Emma hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Should she tell him that Daniel was returning early? That her heart was suddenly pulled in two directions, toward the comfort and love of her husband and toward the unexpected connection she had found with Liam. She typed slowly, Daniel is coming home tomorrow. I don't know how to feel right now. Everything is suddenly moving so fast. Liam's reply was gentle, careful, I understand. Just know that whatever you feel is okay. Don't rush yourself. Inspiration in life or in art often arrives in the middle of uncertainty. Emma smiled faintly, grateful for his understanding, but the tension in her chest didn't ease. That night, she sat by the window, staring at the city lights reflecting off the wet streets. Her thoughts wandered, memories of quiet evenings with Daniel, laughter shared over coffee, the warmth of his hand in hers, and then the cafe, Liam's smile. The way he had listened, as though her thoughts mattered more than the world outside. By Friday afternoon, Emma was a mix of nerves and anticipation. She spent hours tidying the apartment, arranging flowers, and even sketching a small painting for Daniel, a scene of them together on the porch, sunlight streaming down, capturing a peaceful moment she hoped they could share again. The doorbell rang just as the sky turned golden. Emma's heart leaped. She opened the door to find Daniel standing there, suitcase in hand, smiling tiredly but warmly. Emma, he said, his voice full of relief and love, I'm home. She hugged him tightly, feeling the familiar comfort of his presence. But inside, she felt the quiet stir of conflict. A whisper of the feelings she couldn't name aloud. That evening, as they shared dinner, Emma tried to focus on Daniel. She laughed at his stories, helped him unpack, and tried to push aside the lingering thought of Liam. Yet, every time she glanced at her phone, the small notification from Liam lingered, a gentle reminder of the spark she had felt just days before. After dinner, Daniel fell asleep on the couch while Emma cleaned up. She stood by the window, phone in hand, reading Liam's last message. I hope today was gentle with you. Remember, inspiration is never a straight line. Emma whispered to herself, a mix of longing and guilt. What if inspiration isn't just about art? The next morning brought a surprise she didn't see coming. A package arrived for her at the door. It was small, carefully wrapped, with a note attached in Liam's familiar handwriting, for inspiration and for you. No pressure, just a small spark. Inside was a miniature painting, a vibrant, delicate scene of a woman standing at the edge of a dock, looking out at the water as the sun set. The colors glowed with warmth and melancholy, capturing both longing and hope. Emma's breath caught. She held the painting close, feeling the quiet weight of emotion it carried. And then, almost instinctively, she realized something important. Liam had given her more than art. He had given her permission to feel again. Daniel walked in just then, rubbing his eyes. "Emma?" he asked, noticing the painting. Emma froze. For a moment, she considered hiding it, pretending it was just another sketch. But something inside her refused to lie. She smiled softly. "It's from a friend. Just something that made me think." Daniel nodded, unaware of the depth behind her words. He smiled and went back to the couch, leaving Emma staring at the painting, torn between two worlds, the love and familiarity of her husband, and the unexpected, electrifying inspiration she had found in Liam. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions she hadn't anticipated: loyalty, excitement, curiosity, and a quiet yearning she couldn't name. The lines between friendship, inspiration, and something more began to blur. And then, just as her eyelids grew heavy, her phone buzzed again. A message from Liam. "Emma, I know Daniel is home now. I just want you to remember that feeling alive is okay, even when life feels complicated. I'm here if you need to talk." Emma's heart skipped. She knew she was standing at a crossroads, one that could change everything in ways she wasn't ready to face. The spark of inspiration had become a quiet flame inside her, illuminating possibilities she hadn't dared to imagine. She whispered to herself in the dark, her voice barely audible. Maybe the heart isn't supposed to follow one straight path. Maybe it's supposed to feel, even when it's messy. And with that thought, the tension hung in the air, unresolved, fragile, and impossible to ignore. Saturday morning arrived in Portland with a golden haze, the kind of light that made everything feel softer, warmer, and more alive. Emma woke up early, her thoughts heavy with yesterday's emotions. Daniel was still asleep on the couch, exhausted from his trip, and the apartment felt both comforting and suffocating at the same time. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, staring at the streets below. The city moved on without pause, cars honking softly, joggers passing by, neighbors greeting each other. And yet, Emma felt suspended in a moment that belonged entirely to her. A moment where her heart tugged in two directions. Her phone buzzed. "Liam, good morning, Emma. Just checking in. I hope you're taking a quiet moment for yourself." Emma typed back slowly, careful with every word. "Morning, Liam. I'm trying. Daniel's home now, and it feels strange, in a good way, I think." "Confusing too," Liam replied, his words gentle but unwavering. "I understand. It's okay to feel multiple things at once. The heart doesn't always follow logic." She smiled faintly, the warmth in her chest growing despite the knot of uncertainty. She looked at the small painting he had sent the woman on the dock, and something about it resonated. The scene felt like a mirror to her own life, standing at the edge of certainty, staring into the unknown. By mid-morning, Daniel stirred. He found Emma still sitting by the window, sipping her coffee and tracing the rim of the cup with her finger. "Morning," he said, voice soft, almost tentative. "You look thoughtful." Emma looked up, forcing a smile. "Morning. Just thinking about life, I guess." Daniel nodded, stretching. "I've missed you. The city feels different without you around for so long." She nodded, the words catching in her throat. How could she tell him about Liam, about the spark she hadn't expected? Could she? Should she? And yet, part of her longed to be honest, to admit that she had discovered something she hadn't realized she was missing. The day passed with quiet routines, unpacking Daniel's suitcase, cooking together, watching the soft afternoon light spill across the kitchen floor. But Emma's mind kept drifting. When she glanced at her phone, Liam's name flashed in her thoughts, and she felt a strange mix of guilt and longing. Finally, as evening approached, Emma made a decision. She needed clarity. She needed to confront the truth of her feelings before they became something she couldn't control. She texted Liam, "Can we meet? I need to talk. Just us, one last time before everything changes." The message was short, but the weight behind it pressed on her chest. She didn't know if she was ready for answers, or if she would like the answers she received. Liam replied quickly, "I'll meet you. How about the little park near the river? Quiet and peaceful." Emma nodded to herself. That night, after Daniel had gone to bed, she slipped on a coat, grabbed her keys, and left quietly. The cool night air kissed her cheeks as she walked to the park, the city lights reflecting in the water like a million tiny stars. Liam was already there, standing by a bench with a sketchbook tucked under his arm. When he saw her, he smiled softly, the same smile that had made her heart flutter at the cafe days ago. "Emma," he said gently, "you look contemplative." She swallowed, emotions rising like a tide. "Liam, I need to be honest with you. Daniel's back. I love him, I always will. But these past days, talking to you, meeting you, it stirred something in me I didn't expect. I don't know what to do with it." Liam nodded slowly, his gaze steady, not judgmental, not pleading. "I understand, and thank you for being honest. That's all I could ever ask for." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. The weight of emotions, relief, sadness, longing, clarity, all collided at once. "I don't want to hurt anyone. And yet, I feel alive in a way I haven't in months. How do I reconcile that?" Liam took a small step closer, his voice soft but unwavering. "You don't need to have all the answers right now. Inspiration doesn't follow rules. Sometimes, it shows you what your heart has been missing, even if only for a moment. And maybe that's enough to guide you forward." They stood in silence for a long moment, the water rippling beside them, the night alive with sounds of distant laughter and the rustle of leaves. Emma realized that the spark she had felt wasn't about replacing Daniel, it was about reconnecting with herself. Rediscovering her ability to feel deeply, to create, to live. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe I needed this, not to choose, but to remember who I am, and what I want my heart to feel." Liam smiled, understanding in his eyes. "Then perhaps, for now, that's enough. Inspiration has a way of finding us, and letting us grow, even in complicated moments." Emma hugged him briefly, a gesture of gratitude, not romance, and turned back toward the city lights, toward home, and toward the life she had built with Daniel. She felt stronger, clearer, and more alive than she had in months. But as she walked back through the quiet streets, the small flame of her heart lingered, a reminder of the lessons she had learned, and the possibilities she had yet to explore. Some things didn't need immediate answers. Some feelings were meant to be experienced, understood, and honored, and Emma knew that tonight. She had done exactly that, and somewhere deep inside, a quiet, persistent thought whispered, "Life, like art, isn't perfect. It's beautiful because of the colors we never expected to find." Sunday morning dawned with a quiet, gentle light. The city of Portland felt softer, almost forgiving. As if it knew the emotional storm that had been brewing inside Emma was finally beginning to settle. She woke early, not to anxiety or uncertainty, but to a calm clarity she hadn't experienced in weeks. Daniel was still asleep, breathing softly on the couch, and for a moment, Emma simply watched him, letting the rhythm of his presence anchor her. She realized that love wasn't about constant fireworks or dramatic moments. Sometimes, it was quiet, patient, and steady, like the comfort of someone waiting for you in the same house, the same life, day after day. Her phone buzzed with a message from Liam. She opened it, expecting the usual warmth, but instead it read, "Emma, I just wanted to say, thank you, for trusting yourself, and for being honest. You're stronger than you think." Emma smiled, her heart full but not conflicted. She typed back, "Thank you, Liam. You reminded me that inspiration isn't just about art, it's about feeling alive. Even in the most complicated moments. I won't forget that." There was a pause, and then his reply, "That's all I ever wanted for you." Emma closed her phone and took a deep breath. The lessons of the past week had been powerful. Liam had sparked something in her. Yes, a sense of awakening, of emotional clarity, but she realized that her heart already had a home. Daniel's return, their shared memories, the life they had built together, had always been the foundation she needed. The spark Liam had given her wasn't about romance. It was about rediscovering herself, her courage to feel deeply, and her willingness to embrace life fully. Later that morning, Daniel stirred and found Emma in the kitchen, a soft smile on her face. "Morning," he said, voice still husky with sleep. "Morning," Emma replied. And then, gently, she added, "I missed you." Daniel's eyes softened. "I missed you too, more than I realized." They sat together, sipping coffee, the silence between them comfortable and warm. Emma realized that the spark of life she had thought she found elsewhere had, in truth, always been present in her marriage. She just needed a mirror to see it again. Liam had been that mirror, reflecting her feelings, her creativity, and her heart's capacity to love. As the day unfolded, Emma returned to her sketches, her colors bolder than ever, but this time, her art carried a new depth, a blend of longing, gratitude, and joy. Every brushstroke reflected her renewed connection to Daniel and her own creative spirit. In the evening, they walked together along the river, hand in hand, sunlight dancing across the water. Emma felt the quiet thrill of being fully alive, fully herself, and fully present with the man she loved. There were no sparks of temptation or doubt now, only the steady, comforting warmth of a heart that knew where it belonged. And somewhere, quietly, in the soft corner of her memory, Liam's influence lingered, not as a replacement, not as a rival, but as a gentle reminder that life could surprise her, and inspiration could appear in the most unexpected forms. Emma whispered to herself as she watched Daniel laugh under the golden sky. Inspiration isn't about finding someone new. It's about discovering the love and life that's been around you all along and daring to feel it fully. Her heart was calm, her mind clear, and her soul alive. She had faced temptation, uncertainty, and emotional turmoil, and she had chosen not just love, but self-awareness, courage, and joy. The city hummed softly around them, and Emma realized that life, like art, was not about perfection. It was about color, texture, depth, and the courage to embrace all the shades, even the ones that surprised her the most. And in that moment, Emma knew something undeniable. Sometimes, the spark you think you're searching for doesn't lead you away from love. It leads you back to it, brighter, stronger, and more alive than ever before. As they walked into the soft evening light, Emma's heart felt full, not with the rush of a fleeting infatuation, but with the steady, enduring flame of love, inspiration, and life itself. She had found her heart again, and it had never been more inspired. The end.